This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And Doc, as you know, one of our fine partners at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network is The Athletic. And specifically, The Athletic Detroit is fine and premium coverage for passionate, hugely passionate Detroit sports fans. Listeners of this fine episode of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company can get 30% off the first year of an annual subscription to The Athletic today by visiting theathletic.com/DSP. And welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner and fun, that is Doc from Doc and Jack, John Charles Macaroon. John, how are you doing?
Vito, welcome to the week of podcasting. Holy cow, Vito. When we went and covered the Detroit Tigers versus the Houston Astros, it was the return of Justin Verlander. And obviously, you know, it was going to be sentimental. It was going to be emotional. Part of me was like, well, you know, how much coverage should we give? Is it going to hit the radar? A lot of people tuned in to that coverage. Thank you guys so much for following us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, following Vito at Vito Jerome. And then what transpired right across the street at Ford Field made it so that all the reporters there said, man, I probably should have went over across the street and covered Justin Verlander because of how awful the Detroit Lions played. But it was very fun. Both you and I had the opportunity to go to Comerica Park and cover a game together. So that was a fun experience, seeing how you get down, how you banter, and the work that you did to cover the game, the knowledge that you brought to the table. So I had a good time. I absorbed the game of baseball, learning day by day kind of the ins and outs of how press is treated and how first-time media members kind of get treated. So it's fine how we've been treated. I'm very thankful that we have the opportunity to go cover the Detroit Tigers. It was a great experience hanging out with you, and I look forward to this podcast. What do we got on tap this week?
Well, we have to recap the 1968 50th anniversary celebration over this past weekend at Comerica Park. I was there on Saturday for the parade of 1968 World Series champions around Comerica, the ballpark, inside of it, on the field, around the warning track, the foul territory. So I saw a bunch of these guys in the 1968 team. I believe 14 in total were there on Saturday, and I was able to cover it, meet some guys, John Warden, Dick Tracewski, who is known as Trixie, affectionately known as Trixie, former utility infielder for the 1968 Tigers, first base coach for the 1984 Tigers under Sparky Anderson, so a member of both World Series championship teams in 68 and 84, and got the chance to talk to him. He was passionate, he was graceful, and what a nice dude. Very talkative dude. So was John Warden. I have some stuff from him as well, and from Dick Tracewski. And what I got from him will be actually on this week's episode of Tigers Talk, Doc.
Nice. So you actually went and secured some audio. Good for
I did.
you.
I got some audio.
Now, before we recap the 1968 celebration, you were there. We were there for the Justin Verlander kind of emotional tribute coming back to Comerica Park. An amazing performance that he had, 10 Ks, and unbelievable, earned his 15th win on the season in a 3-2 game. Houston played really solidly. Detroit, the Tigers' defensive woes continue, and that's probably the theme of what we saw this week in terms of the Tigers. Their defense has really taken a hit the last few weeks, but I want to ask and start with this. Are you liking the coverage? Are you liking being able to go down to Comerica Park? Pretty much each time we've applied, we've been able to gain access, even though you know, we have to apply each and every time we go. We do not have season passes. We have been able pretty much to go down there. We have not been denied yet formally. Obviously, the first time we asked was right when we wanted to go see the Boston series, but that's when we first started, when we first got the okay. But since then, everything that we've wanted to go cover has been a yes. And so, have you liked it? Has it lived up to the hype? Is it what you thought it would be, covering a major baseball team, a pro team in town, in the press box, being able to be a credentialed media member? How are you feeling about it?
Well, sitting alongside you on Monday night in the press box and watching Justin Verlander get all emotional, what's better than that? Rubbing elbows with this bald-headed 39-year-old man. I mean, that's like a dream come true for me. Come on. So, but Verlander, he really did get choked up, by the way. You saw him watching that montage of highlights from his career with the Tigers on the video, big screen in, left field. He was getting emotional watching it. It was just cool as well to see him stop from his routine, his pregame routine, to take that all in. And if you looked at him as he was walking off the field, it looked like he was getting choked up. I don't know if there were any waterworks specifically, but it looked like, man, that really hit him. All the feels, right, in the world for him, for us watching from the press box, for the fans that were there. What a great time to be around Comerica to see that happen on Monday night, Doc.
Now, noted media member Craig Monroe, I was there his first home game at Comerica Park.
Were you? You remember that?
Yes, I remember being there. Me and Kenny joked around about how we would tease that team back in the day because they weren't really that good. And so we would joke around that, oh, Craig Monroe's coming up. So what we would do is when he would come up, we would scream the loudest like he was a superstar. And if people were like quiet because it was one of those eras where wasn't a lot of buzz, wasn't a lot of excitement. So what me and Kenny would do is we'd go joke around where we go, okay, we're going to pick a player. And the player we gravitated toward was Craig Monroe. And so whenever he would come up, we would stand and scream throughout his entire entrance music and things like that. And we would scream at the highest like he was a superstar. And everyone would look around and be like, yeah, that's Craig Monroe. And we hyped it up and we had a good time with it. So it harkens back to now seeing Christin Stewart made his first debut at Comerica Park. He got his first hit off of Justin Verlander.
Of all people. How about that?
First at bat at Comerica Park is off Justin Verlander. He had a good swing. It was an out, but he had a decent at bat. He's got a really kind of unorthodox stance, but it was interesting to see Christin Stewart out there. But, Francisco Liriano, decent performance. Wasn't, terrible, so that was fine. But, yeah, sitting there next to you, I was just thinking, man, we were struggling so hard to get one pass, but to get two in the same night was awesome. And then we could joke around now that I've applied to more Michigan games, that I'm now a Michigan football reporter.
Look
as well.
at you. You would have loved to have covered Michigan State first.
Yep.
It's been U of M football for you, which you love. You love donning the maize and blue, or not donning, but rooting on the maize and blue.
I probably will assume that our relationship with Karan Higdon has probably played a part.
You think it's elevated our status to a higher level?
I think people heard it. Someone heard it.
Somebody listened to it. We don't know if the right people listened to it, but somebody did. Well, we know Steve Cementi listened to it, right? Shout out to Steve.
So I've enjoyed it. It was a very good time watching the Tigers game. I want to ask you this, though, regarding the celebration, because some people messaged us and said, look, in the world of competitiveness, what's with all the love for Justin Verlander? He's not on the team anymore. He did his part. We've showed him all the love. The fans definitely cheered him, and they gave him a standing ovation when he came up. But some people said, look, he shower him with praise when he retires. He's a competitor. He's the enemy now. And some people kind of gave a little bit of pushback saying, hey, why are you guys showing all this love to Justin Verlander? He won a World Series somewhere else. He didn't deliver the goods here in Detroit. He went on, and obviously he had to, as part of the deal, waive his no-trade clause, and it was last second. So it was kind of, the narrative was that he was struggling with this internal decision, whether or not to leave the Detroit Tigers, the only organization that he's been with. But he went on and won a ring. He's now a superstar.
He's doing all right. He's dating married a superstar model in Kate Upton, too. He's doing all right for himself, isn't he?
Was the adulation and the multiple standing ovations for Justin Verlander warranted in your eyes?
It was going to happen, and not many fans there, right? I mean, we know that, too. But they were up and cheering for him, loud and proud for him. And you know what, though? When you're god-awful, the Tigers are god-awful. You're going to have fans cheering for you. So I think because of that, too, it played a large factor in why there was such a big amount of applause for him, but also he would have gotten it anyways, really. Now, should he have received it? I think there's more reason for it, more rhyme and reason for it when the Tigers suck like they do right now to cheer him on.
Gotcha. And they lost, the Tigers lost 3-2. Verlander was awesome. He still got good stuff, man. 15 wins this year. His stuff
10 Ks. I mean, come on. He was getting it done, man.
Unbelievable response and unbelievable performance by Justin Verlander. And the thing that every time he does it, it's still special to see, is that he can dial it up past 97 in the 6th and 7th innings. It's unbelievable that he can rear back and get stronger as each game progresses. To see it live was fascinating.
And then freeze Christin Stewart, by the way, welcome to the big leagues, on a curveball. Christin Stewart didn't know what was coming there. So I think he's a pure fastball hitter. So when he gets an off-speed pitch like a curveball, man, Justin Verlander threw that to him and caught him looking for a strikeout there. So he made him look like a rookie real quick there. And welcome to the big leagues to Christin Stewart, who hit a solid line drive to center field in his first AB against Verlander, then got that first hit off of Verlander of Stewart's major league career. So that was great to see. And what a memorable moment for him to get the first hit of his career, but also against a legend, a future Hall of Famer potentially, a Tiger great in Justin Verlander, Doc.
So before the 1968 celebration, what were the main headlines? What were the main story points in your eyes this week for the Detroit Tigers?
Well, I think some defensive miscues. And you know what? I got to bring up Monday night because we were there too. Ronnie Rodriguez lost the Tigers a game. 3 unearned runs, by the way, in that ball game against Houston. Tigers lost the game almost single-handedly because of Ronnie Rodriguez's miscues at shortstop. He's not the Tigers' shortstop of the future by any stretch of the imagination. As I tweeted out from Vito Jerome on Twitter, no way is he the future Tigers starting shortstop. No way at all, Doc. He can't hit good enough, really can't hit to save his life, and fielding-wise, he's no Jose Iglesias. Jose Iglesias not the greatest hitter, really can't hit for power. Ronnie Rodriguez can't either. The thing is that Jose Iglesias adds to the mix is his defensive ability. Can cover a ton of ground, make those plays in the hole, make that Webb Gem-esque play, the tough plays and the routine plays. Ronnie Rodriguez, he was missing routine plays on Monday night against the Houston Astros, and that's not going to cut the mustard seed, and I don't think he's even an adequate backup infielder at the major league level, Doc.
Yeah, and now the Tigers are adding pitchers because Toledo has been officially eliminated from their play, so now we get a chance to see a couple more starting pitchers. I think a couple that are brought up. One's going to be a starter, one's going to be a reliever, so we have an opportunity now to see more players come up, and with the expanded rosters, we get a chance to evaluate further, but a lot of eyes on Christin Stewart, a lot of eyes on
Jared Salty-Lamacchia about, hey, Salty's back.
Anybody that called up that caught your eye?
Well, I mean, I got to go back to probably Christin Stewart. He has the most potential of anybody that was called up because he's got the most, I think, invested in him from the Tigers organization as a whole. They want to see him hit for power and become a supremely gifted corner outfielder that hits for pop, that plays in the DH spot as well in the Tigers' order. And I think next year, I saw Lynn Henning tweet it out too, it makes sense for the Tigers to insert him into the corner outfield, into left field if Cassie is still the right fielder next year, and then also to put Stewart in as the DH. Without V-Mart next year, Miguel Cabrera will probably get some ABs as DH when he is healthy and ready to go for next season, but also Stewart probably will get some time at DH because he's still pretty much a stinko outfielder. He's not the greatest defensive player, and that's why I think you have to give him some ABs at DH.
Okay, recap the week. Who'd they play last week? And obviously this week everyone's excited because of the fact that they're going to play Houston and Cleveland on the road. Houston at home, and then they're going to play Cleveland. Unbelievable week. It's probably going to be some struggles. Obviously, you're going to see the Tigers struggle versus Houston, and then you're going to see the Tigers probably. You never know. I mean, they could play spoiler, but they're going to go out to Houston and probably take a whooping. But what happened in the week that was?
Well, the Tigers really got to Michael Kopech, who now needs Tommy John surgery, supposedly, the White Sox future ace. And that was a game Wednesday of last week in which Jordan Zimmerman actually got it done, got a W. So that was good to see out of Jay Zim and the Tigers. In Chicago, taking 2 out of 3. And they started off the series against St. Louis in fine fashion as well, remember. So they had to come back to win that game that I was at on Saturday after Shane Green blew it. Shane Green, man, blowing saves left and right. Has blown 2 saves in his last 4 appearances, at least going into Monday's game against the Astros. So Shane Green has struggled mightily. Joe Jimenez has struggled mightily. So you bring up the defensive miscues that I brought up, but it's also on the pitching and the lack of strong performances by the back end of the bullpen.
If I'm not mistaken, the Detroit Tigers, they won 2 out of 3 versus the Cardinals, and that's no small feat. The Cardinals came in playing pretty solidly, and so I was impressed with the fact that the Detroit Tigers won 2 out of 3 versus the Cardinals.
It was impressive. I mean, the Cardinals are a team that might make the playoffs, have been hugely hot in the second half of the season. So they're a team that could get into the playoffs, are even in striking distance at least a little bit in the National League Central Division. You look at the division standings right now in the American League Central. To start off, the Tigers still in 3rd place by 3 games in that great American League Central Division. The NL Central, much tougher, a much better division from day 1 of the season until now. The Cardinals are in striking distance in the division. They are 3.5 games behind the first-place Chicago Cubs. The St. Louis Cardinals have 80 wins this season, Doc, and the Tigers took 2 out of 3 against them. Now, that was at home over the weekend when the 68 team was being honored and celebrated all weekend long, but still, very strong results out of the Tigers over this past weekend, and something the Tigers have to be proud of, and you have to take some positives from that weekend as well that just happened, Doc.
And again, kudos to Matt Boyd. He made the Cardinals hitters look a little bit silly, man. It was a good performance on Friday.
Nobody was talking about it either because of the 68 reunion and anniversary celebration on Saturday. I lost track of Matthew Boyd, and he struck out 11, a career-high 11 batters against the St. Louis Cardinals, against a strong potential playoff team. So that was very impressive by Matthew Boyd on Saturday night against the Cards. Then Sunday, Michael Fulmer was perfect. And then he lost control, had his one bad inning, which he has had now many times this season. It has always come to haunt him, it seems like, this season, Doc, having that one bad inning. And it happened again Sunday, was perfect, then had the tough inning, lost everything that he had going for himself, and the Tigers lost that contest on Sunday, but already to that point had won 2 in a row against the Cards, the first 2 games of the series. So they won 2 out of 3 in the grand scheme of things against the Cardinals, so a good series victory over the weekend, and that was coming off of a series victory against the White Sox, in which they won 2 out of 3 on the road on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah, I misspoke. Yep, definitely Matt Boyd pitched on Saturday when you were there. Daniel Norris got in there Friday, and the Tigers earned a 5-3 victory versus the Cardinals to start the series. So decent start for Daniel Norris, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, 7 Ks. So a guy like that, it's good to see get back into the swing of things. But obviously the big question marks with Daniel Norris are going to be consistency. Can he stay on the mound?
Staying healthy, right?
And
his availability.
Look, he's a professional. He has talent. The problem is, can he harness it enough to go out there every 5th day? And that's what Michael Fulmer's seeing is that, look, you can have a strikeout pitch, but you got to go out there every 5th day, and you can't get knocked around. You have to pitch in a way that will get batters out. You have to give your club a chance to win each outing that you're assigned to go pitch. And Daniel Norris right now has a big question mark. I don't know if he's going to be in the long-term future of the Detroit Tigers because of his inconsistency. He might just need a fresh start somewhere else. But Michael Fulmer, it seems like no doubt that he's going through a slump in his 3rd year with the Tigers.
Well, he hasn't been available. Not healthy. You talked about Daniel Norris. Well, Michael Fulmer's right behind him. Hasn't been much better in terms of staying healthy this season. Sparse, I'm going to use that term, sparse availability from Norris from Michael Fulmer. You hope Norris regains full health at one point, is consistently productive like he was when he had a string of like 21 straight quality outings for the Tigers. But that was a long time ago now from Daniel Norris. And Michael Fulmer's consistent productivity, it seems like that was a long time ago as well now. Now, he was good last year, but he's been hurt left and right. And that's not good to see a young arm hurt repeatedly, as Norris has been heavily, but even Michael Fulmer to this point. And I'm scared of Fulmer staying healthy. I'm scared of Norris staying healthy. And once again, Matthew Boyd Saturday night, a great performance. Norris, a good performance Friday night against the Cards. And we just want to see him stay healthy. Can he stay healthy the rest of the way this season at least? Now, the Tigers almost lost that game, remember, Friday, though. They had to be bailed out by who? Jeimer Candelario. How about the walk-off home run that he hit off of a 102.1 mile per hour fastball thrown by Jordan Hicks? How about that? That was the fastest pitch hit for a home run this season in the major leagues. So an impressive stat there that I will throw your guys' way via Vito's notebook for this week, and courtesy of Jeimer Candelario, his heroics on Friday night to beat the Cardinals in the bottom of the 9th.
That was amazing to see. 102 miles an hour, he connected, and kaboom, and it was nice to see. Definitely, no doubt about it. All right, we teased it enough. After the break, you'll recap what it was like to see the 1968 ceremony. I think that a lot of people definitely have a lot of nostalgia regarding that team. 50 years ago, they're celebrating. The Tigers have done a great job with all their ceremonies and their video packages. Their production value has been awesome. Even John Paul Morosi complimented the Tigers brass and said, hey, you guys have done a great job this year in terms of video quality, and he was impressed. It was nice to see him at the ballpark. Definitely a very nice man, very cordial. Literally, there's not too many people that every time you walk by, he's like, hey, good to see you. Smiling.
He's a nice guy.
And
yeah, you can tell.
I think that's the way people feel about me as well, because everybody kind of looks. And guess what? I will tease. Somebody eyed me. Somebody did the up and down to me, a media member, and it was interesting.
Wait, that means a lot to you? Somebody from top to bottom, and you liked it?
Somebody was peeking at who I was.
And what you were doing, what you were working on, maybe?
No, they were looking at my credentials.
Okay, just to verify that you were credentialed media, huh?
Yes, they were looking at me, and they're probably putting 2 and 2 together, because sometimes I do get a little nervous, like, wait, do these people actually pay attention to stuff I tweet? Because it's a little bit sarcastic.
You get scared that it's too vile.
And no, it's not vile, but this person I had directly messaged myself, so nobody's yet confronted me, I'll say that, but we'll tease it. Your recap of 1968, the recap of what it was like to see Justin Verlander pitching at Comerica Park right after this.
Doc got the eyeball shakedown. And with that being said, how about the Detroit Sports Commission, one of our fine partners at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network? And the Detroit Sports Commission has been bringing tons of marquee events to our very region, that is the Metro Detroit area, since 2001. And with that being said, The Detroit Sports Commission has brought events such as the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic, tons of national and international amateur sporting events. And you can find out all of the events they are bringing to our very region. Once again, that is the Metro Detroit area by following the Detroit Sports Commission on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports. And also make sure to check out their very fine website at DetroitSports.org.
So, buddy, it's safe to assume that the network has credentials. Is there a chance when you're like 84 years old, will you go cover games for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network? Because I see...
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. Now I know what you're talking about. Okay.
We'll keep it as an inside joke.
But let me ask you, you didn't get the eyeball shakedown from him, did you?
No.
Okay.
To reset... Prior to the break, I was walking, and, if you're in the press box, there's obviously a designated area where you can sit and tweet and report and do your work. And there's a back area where you can walk back to get some water, coffee, or pop, or food, or anything like that. So I'm walking, and luckily, sometimes timing is of the essence, and I got a chance, which was awesome. And the Tigers have been so gracious. And one thing I will say is they do treat the media well. I walked back to the media area. Sometimes I like to peek at the game notes. I like to read some stuff, and sometimes there's some good information regarding upcoming events and things like that. And sometimes you see people like Al Kaline or Alan Trammell walking through.
In the bathroom.
Exactly. And I was going to try and get an inside scoop on what happened with Mario and Rod, but nobody was talking.
Uh-huh.
Everybody was kind of chuckling and hush-hush. Nobody was trying to give me the scoop on Mario and Rod. But Craig Monroe walked by, and he looks, and I give him a head nod, and he looks, and then he looks down. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm like,
Then you know what he's looking at. He wasn't looking at
he wasn't
the dirty
looking at
thing.
No, he wasn't looking at that. He was looking at the credential.
Okay.
And he kind of was a little bit stern because he seems like a jovial, nice guy.
Yeah,
very nice guy.
I can't believe he really gave you an eyeball shakedown. By the way, that's my buddy.
Yeah.
I have a story. I think I've told you yet, but anyways.
Yeah, but here's the reason, Vito. We're new.
Well, we're new, and then you stand out, I stand out. Yeah.
Over the course of 81 home games, you start to know who's showing up. You know, all the beat writers, all the national writers, and people that are there every day. And there's this weird guy there with his own jacket and his own stuff and, getting the shakedown. But it was cool that he acknowledged me, did not confront me because I confronted him on Twitter when he kind of was discussing, sabermetrics, and I kind of said that your argument regarding Dustin Pedroia was a little bit false because of the fact that he went on the air and said that Dustin Pedroia's numbers in college didn't warrant him being that people overlooked him because of his height. And I said he was a defensive college player of the year. He batted over 300, massive. I'm like, all the numbers dictated why he was selected so highly. So use these numbers properly because it gives us a lot of info. It helps us quote-unquote novices figure out the game a little bit in terms of how these guys can project. And a lot of times it's true. Now, I also, though, am one of those people that do like the eyeball test, and that's what's also allowed me to kind of catch on with understanding baseball is I have relationships with scouts. I know a couple of them personally that I text with here and there. And I am also a kind of guy that goes, okay, I think this guy might have the hustle, the heart, and the drive to do some things. And one of those players that I said potentially that might not have been sabermetrically proper was Craig Monroe when he came up with the Tigers. I said, this guy's got something a little different. He's got a little swagger. He's got a little something that I like. And me and Kenny gravitated to him. We were fans of him when we went out there as youngsters. But it was cool to see him there. And the best part was free swag, baby. I got to grab and nab you some free swag. Was he appreciative? Was your dad thankful of the gift that I levied upon you, young reporter there, Vito?
Well, it's funny, I forgot to give it to him. It's still in my car. It's in my car right outside the studio.
Vito.
The studio parking lot here in Sterling Heights.
It's all about...
I'm going to give it to him. I promise.
Instant gratification, man. Come on.
I know. No instant gratification from my dad. Sorry about that,
To let the cat out of the bag, we picked up a couple hats and a couple of the giveaways that were given. Old school Detroit hat is really cool. And the jersey was
the
awesome.
retro 68 uniform from the 68 season.
Yeah.
Cool for you. You have multiple, I think, versions of it, multiple jerseys. Anyways.
Yeah.
SEMO. Now... I thought I showed you or talked to you about
we talked about
my run-in with them.
Right, but
not a big run-in, but we're buddies, obviously. We've hung out in Royal Oak together.
Yeah, you were.
You didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's your wingman, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
He would be. He'd be a great wingman. Let me tell you, seriously. He does the rounds. I don't know if he's a married man now. When I was living there in Royal Oak, I would go out to the bars, go to Fifth Avenue, O'Toole's various bars. I just, toured the night scene. And Nick Schmiegel and I, another shout out to him, we saw him one night and we took a photo with them.
Nice.
I had my pink shirt on. He bent down, took a photo with me. Was like, the peace sign. You've seen that, right?
I think I probably seen it.
Yeah, Simo and I and Nick.
Nice.
I don't know. Should we tweet that photo out? I don't know because
no. The funny part would be, my buddy's here covering the game, and you tag him in it, and you're like, he's looking over, he's like, wait a minute.
Wait. I wonder if he would remember.
But
me.
no, I got a question
because of my stature. But
for the most part, now I feel like I got the hang of being in the media now and kind of what to do and what not to do. But the thing that I see sometimes as an outsider that I see is I always thought that they always announce it before the games that this is a working press room, that obviously no cheering, and obviously you got to be professional. But there's some people talking, there's banter.
Little bit.
And there was
it's
cheering.
Bears.
There was a little bit of cheering, and because people at the Tigers game were watching the Lions game.
Sure.
And so I couldn't help myself when Stafford threw the pick, and I threw my arms up because of the fact that you just can't help it. You're just so mad at what the Detroit Lions do. But what's your attitude about it? Like, do you care that people talk and banter a little bit? Me and you just bantered back and forth. We were sharing laughs. But I kind of got a sense that some people like it silent, and I feel like and from what people have told me that the Tigers separated on purpose, where there's that wall on the other side of it, people can go and talk and kind of be a little bit looser, and then the writer's side can be a little bit more with more decorum. But I kind of like it for me personally. I like to sit off to the far right of the row and be by myself and just watch the game. I'm not all about the, hey, what, a little bit here and there, like, that was a good grab or anything like that. Just a little bit of stuff, but I'm kind of more of the decorum, kind of keep it quiet. Just get to work, tweet, do your business, and get in, get out.
Well, it's not a library. And I'm jovial. I like to talk.
But that's the rule,
so I
though.
conversate. There is banter. Well, yeah, you can't be, full of excitement and just yelling. And, just yelling expletives. Or, great play. Yeah. Awesome, man. Mikey Matuk, great play, man.
You can't be yelling.
You can't be yelling.
Or you can't.
You got to keep it quiet.
Or maybe.
You can talk.
Maybe you can't be like, what are you doing? As maybe we might have heard from some professionals.
Well, sure.
Maybe a little bit too much.
You can't just blurt out things really loudly. You can't be loud and proud in the press box. You know what? At the Tigers games, I have not heard them, though, announce over the PA that it's a working press room or whatever.
Okay.
At Michigan, is that why you're saying that? Because for the Michigan football games, which you just covered for the first time in Ann Arbor, you were in the press box. You might have heard them say that over the PA.
I've heard it at Comerica, and I've heard it at
Michigan. Comerica, too.
I've heard it.
I didn't hear it at Comerica. But it is a working... When they say that, that means you can't be cheering for the teams playing on the field. Okay. And if you do, you're not a media member.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. You're not available. Get out. Get out of the press box. Go in the stands then, right?
Exactly.
That's how I view it, Doc.
It was so fun, man. I'm having a good time with this. I'm just still shocked that we're able to do this. And I can't believe this kind of conversation is the one we're having about, decorum in the media room because...
But there is decorum. A lot of old-timers, old schoolers, really, that want to say, hey, get off my lawn, they have the decorum. They stick to it. You and I, well, you're a little bit older than me. But millennials, we don't stick to,
How would you grade
decorum entirely?
Obviously, you follow along with Detroit Podcast. How would you assess the coverage that you've seen from that page in the world of Detroit sports since we've started covering Detroit sports and the Tigers specifically?
Well, you rile up the masses, little to no knowledge, but... But you keep everybody abreast of everything that's going on in the sports world in Detroit.
Let's be specific, Vito. Little to no factual knowledge.
There we go. Little to no factual evidence about your claims on Twitter that you're spewing to the masses. I'll say that much at least.
But you will give me credit that some emotion is elicited based upon...
Oh, yeah.
And tell me, you haven't scrolled up a couple times and just flat out laughed and been like, what is in this guy's brain?
Well, I know there's nothing really there, so clearly there's nothing there. And as I talk to you, I find that out more and more.
Come on, the GIFs,
No, those are good. And you have to do that, the memes, the GIFs. Yeah. You need that. I don't even do that myself, which probably would help out with my following on Twitter, but...
Don't
you do
tell
great
me
with that.
When I plopped and cropped your face on some wrestlers that you didn't laugh
at.
I
didn't know what the hell it was from because I don't get into wrestling, but it was funny seeing me walking out with these two big dudes. That guy's a small wrestler.
Yeah.
Who was that guy really quick?
He was...
the guy in the middle.
Yeah, he was the acting general manager of another show, but they put him as a manager because obviously shorter in stature. They made him a manager of these two guys.
Did he get beat up? In the ring?
I haven't watched in a minute, so I got to recap because of doing the sports coverage.
We're too busy here, but interesting things, huh?
All right, Vito, get to it. Recap your experience, what it was like to cover the Detroit Tigers game versus the Cardinals, old school matchup, a rematch of the 1968 World Series. You saw some dignitaries. You had a good time with it, and it was fun to see you there. You were doing your thing, and holy cow, Vito. I was going to say one critique. You just totally neglected the whole game. You definitely...
Oh, yeah, I was busy. I was talking to this guy, that guy. We have an interview with Dick Tracewski still come here.
But there was a great game that was going on, too.
Well, sorry, Matthew Boyd. You think he cares I didn't
I
See
took
everything?
care of.
I know you cared.
I'm
sorry, Matthew. Sorry, Doc. Sorry, Matthew. Okay, I know Matthew's listening to this. I feel weird saying Matthew, ttoo.
So that was a great. I give you an A-. It was great. Good job.
You.
The only thing was there was a current game.
There was a game going on. I was worried about the past legends of the game from the Tigers. Yeah. Willie Horton graciously took that photo for me. Did you see that? I had him pose. I didn't expect him to pose where he put his hand up. I was like waving to the crowd, waving to me at least for that photo op. But he was cool to see
the banner.
All these other guys I took photos of. And
yeah, the fan obviously highlighted her banner.
The banner. Well, I'll tell you the truth. I got the idea from a free press photographer.
Oh.
Who helped me out with my credential to make it work with the lanyard. They don't give you a lanyard at the Tigers games when you walk in. Yeah. That's my one gripe. A minor gripe with the Tigers, but I don't know why I can't get a lanyard. I don't know. I didn't know I had to bring one with me, but so the photog from the free press told me, hey, look at this. He was taking a photo. I said, well, he's a photog, right? Yeah. He knows what he's doing. I'm going to take a photo myself. Yeah. So I did it at pennant. Old school, like from 68 pennant. Wasn't that great to see? And so many like vintage shots I was trying to capture. Jose Feliciano, a great anthem, man. He knocked it out of the ballpark.
100%. And
didn't he?
It was funny. That photo of the pennant was funny because I scrolled back and I saw the guy.
I saw it, yeah.
And the guy was looking at you like you were crazy. It was funny. It's a great photo, and it was great for you to be there. You took a lot of photos. The ceremony was definitely one to reminisce and to kind of remember Denny McClain, that team, a solid team that did well. And it was really a unifying team as well because around 68 was the riots.
Yeah, the year before, the riots in the city of Detroit. Willie Horton helped out with that. Was viewed as a hero for that reason too, Doc.
So what was your thinking? What was your game plan going in? What was your mindset going into that? What were you trying to do? Were you trying to impress me? Trying to just get a lot of pictures? What was your prep and thought process as to what you wanted to put together for that one particular day?
Trying to get photos, trying to get some audio maybe from Jose Feliciano, from some of the Tigers dignitaries, as you labeled them as, and really they are Tigers legends such as Al Kaline, Willie Horton. And then I ended up talking to Dick Tracewski, known as Trixie, former Tigers utility infielder, former Tigers first base coach, third base coach under Sparky Anderson, and we have that interview with him to play right now. What did this day overall-wise mean to you?
It's very special because, I'm thrilled that after 50 years people still remember us. But it was a special ball club. And I think, and the people in Michigan and Detroit, they felt that this ball club was special, and they kind of liked it. And I think, but they really did a nice job as far as, putting us out there and doing the things they did. Classy. It was a classy weekend.
What's your fondest memory of the 68 season and the 68 team?
I'm going to get personal now because I hit a 3-run homer off Sam McDowell. We were leaking oil a little bit, and it was the second game of a doubleheader, and Louis Tiant beat us easily in the first game, and in the second game we were scuffling, and I hit a 3-run homer, and we won 4-1. That was special for me. And Mayo Smith seemed to think it was pretty enough, So I mean that was, but we had a lot of special moments. Tommy Magic hit a big home run. Jim Price hit a big home run, and we were second line players, and of course. What happened, Kaline broke his hand, and then, Jim Northrup and Stanley and Horton knew that they were going to play, and they played like hell. They really played. So there was a lot of good things that happened. You could make a big list.
Momentum was always on your guys' side, huh? That's what Al Kaline said.
We believed, when you believe something, it happens. And I guess that's true. It all seems sweet and jolly when you win. If you didn't win, it wouldn't feel good.
And back here on Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company, and that was Dick Tracewski, and he's known affectionately as Trixie. I didn't know that. My dad loved the guy. I think he was more enamored with the fact that I had the chance to talk to him than anybody else here. And I don't even know if you really knew. Or, a lot of people like my generation isn't going to know much about the 68 team and who these guys were. I had heard of Dick Tracewski, and the cool thing about him is that he was a member of the 68 Tigers as a player, then also a member of the 84 Tigers as a coach, on Sparky's coaching staff as a first base coach in 84, also as a third base coach under Sparky for a little bit. And before Sparky, he was a base coach for the Tigers as well. Gates Brown, known affectionately as Gator, he was the hitting coach for the Tigers in 84, also a member, a great pinch hitter for the Tigers in 1968. Now, he has since passed away, but was a great legendary figure. A lot of guys liked him, knew him as an affectionate dude, a jovial dude. My dad met him in a Tiger suite a couple of years back before he passed away. So a guy like that couldn't be there because he did pass away. Some other guys are deceased as well from that 68 team. But still cool to see the guys that were there, including Dick Tracewski. I talked to John Warden once again, who only pitched for a season. His lone season in the bigs came in 1968 of all seasons. Had a great year that year, then had some issues with injuries, never got back to the majors. What a jovial, bubbly dude he was. Nice to talk to him. A lot of guys were very graceful, gracious of me and my time. I was, trying to be gracious of their time, or, accommodating and considerate of their time, and they were of mine. And it was just great to be there, to rub some elbows with these Tigers legends and great members of the Tigers' 1968 World Series championship team.
So overall, you were satisfied? You felt like you got a little bit of history lesson there, seeing some of the old players and reminiscing a little bit from the fans, too, because even after 50 years, the fans still showed love, loyalty. There was a good crowd, decent crowd, obviously with the giveaway and things like that. A lot of affection for old teams, especially ones that win championships.
It was cool reminiscing, hearing the guys reminisce, learning some Tigers history, definitely, which I'm all about. And I saw my kindergarten teacher there, by the way. She wasn't on the field for the pregame ceremonies, but she saw me in the crowd. She came up, was at the front behind home plate, and saw me walking around doing my thing, covering the game, and said, "Hi, Vito." I was like, "Who is this?" It was my kindergarten teacher. So she was there, got the chance to witness me as well, being a credentialed media member at the Tigers game on Saturday, Doc.
Wow, good for you, man. Now, a question just popped up, too, because of the fact that we just witnessed ceremonies for Alan Trammell, Jack Morris. Let's say, for example, now Justin Verlander likely retires with the Houston Astros. There's a small chance they bring him back.
He could return as a free agent in 2020. Might be a member of that 2020 Tigers team, Dak.
Maybe as a leader, but I don't know, because of the fact that by then, what's he going to really bring to the table? I don't really, want to see an aging Justin Verlander. We've already seen him at his peak, and it's great to see him now. But let's say he makes the Hall of Fame. Do they honor him? Do they retire his number because of the fact he won the World Series and he's in the Hall of Fame, but he finished his career with another team? I mean, obviously Jack Morris did, so there's a strong likelihood that Justin Verlander, if he gets his number retired and he shows love to the Tigers, probably is going to get a ceremony, right? Because Jack Morris finished his career with the Blue Jays, so it's probably likely. I answer my own question. It's likely
there you
that,
go. And Verlander was better than Jack Morris, by the way, in their respective primes. Verlander, the better career, won an MVP.
So you're thinking in in about a decade, Justin Verlander will return and have a day where they didn't win a World Series.
See, that's the thing that hurts him and his legacy as a Detroit Tiger. Now he's a Tigers all-time great and former ace of the ball club. Led them to all those division crowns from 2011 to 2014, the 06 World Series, the 2012 World Series, but didn't garner that World Series championship for Motown. That hurts his legacy a tad. And is he a future Hall of Famer? Maybe we'll be enshrined into Cooperstown. Now, if he is, I think he gets his jersey number retired. Yeah. So I think if that happens, which it's more and more likely if he keeps pitching at this level for the next 2 to 3 years, he will be enshrined in Cooperstown one day. And that's the reason why the Tigers will retire his jersey number right then and there, Doc. So I think he'll have his day to shine and to be honored by the Tigers faithful down the line at some point.
Okay, set the scene. What was it like Justin Verlander night? You and I got there. We got there relatively early. We wanted to avoid the traffic. It was a really interesting vibe for me in that a lot of people wanted to reminisce and show love to Justin Verlander when he walked out in ovation, when he was warming up in ovation, and the Tigers did the video. I was surprised they did a video for him, but he stopped, and it was basically like he was the only one on the field, and it was isolated, and he was he was right in the middle of first base and second base and standing out there maybe 30, 40 feet from the infield, and he was just stopped, and he stood there and looked, and then he got to business, and when he got to that mound, it just, for me, it harkened back to when he was a Tiger. It looked just similar. The routine, the way he pitched, the fastball was there, his command was there, his ability to get guys out. He's developed the art of pitching, and the ability to dial it in later in the game was unbelievable. I think he went 7 innings strong, 104 pitches, 10 Ks, only gave up a couple runs. So that stat line was very impressive to both of us. And then when he left the game, obviously, you could tell he was impacted because here's the thing. The winning part, obviously, the memories, the ups and downs. When you spend your whole career, you have a loyalty. You know why, Vito? Because of the fact the Tigers took the chance on him. The Tigers drafted him, and they built him through the system. He was a prominent member. You create memories, okay? Like, I would hope that when if you take a big-time job or you get yourself on the radio or you take a big-time contract, that at least you would say, hey, I enjoyed the time when you walk back as a guest, when you share the stories or you let me in the studio. You say, hey, that's Doc. We shared a lot of memories. We did Doc told me he was going to get us credentialed, and I laughed at him, and he did it. And I think that you would say that when you look back on this time, you'd be like, wow, my work in sports got me as close as I could have possibly been. I mean, I can't get you any closer other than to say, look, Vito, you can interview Gardenhire in the dugout sitting next to him if you get the gear I tell you. But
I would
I
tell
can't
you
get
up.
you-
I would tell
Yeah,
you up and make
exactly.
you sound better than you really are. I would
Exactly.
do that for you, make you sound like a hero.
I've done as much as humanly possible to advance the cause of what we're trying to do here. And I would think that you would also have fondness, and you would think back and, man, that was a fun time. We laughed, we joked, we ribbed each other, we learned. You became a media member, you grew up, you matured, and the good thing is that part of it was we all doubted it ourselves. Like, we'd say, yeah, we're going to get credentialed. Now we got like 40 of them.
Now
here.
it's true, right?
Now it's true. Now we're laughing where I'm getting emails going, I'm going to cover the Wisconsin game.
I know,
is
you
crazy.
can't believe it. Still, you can't believe it.
I can't believe
But it's
it.
great for the network, isn't it?
It's great. And every time where I walk somewhere and everyone asks me, where's Vito? You would think I'd get mad, but I get happy. I really do. I'm like, Vito's on our team. And that's the best part, is that you're part of the team. And the best part is that Justin Verlander was part of two teams that went to the World Series.
Yes.
They didn't win, so you share not only the good emotions, but the bad. And that's where I think some ties too, is that you share tears with people. You shared also, who forgets that classic scene where Jim Leland's dancing?
I loved it.
That was the
Doing the
best scene.
moonwalk.
Yeah, you share some of your best memories. And here's the thing too: he probably is grateful that the Tigers sent him and put a deal together for the Astros. They didn't send him to, the Diamondbacks.
Stinko team, yeah.
They didn't send him to, a team that had no chance. They didn't send him to the Brewers. They sent him to the Astros, a team that was likely the strongest team that could win the World Series, and they allowed him to create great memories. Remember, I believe, if my memory serves correct, went to Dodger Stadium, pitched in that classic game, and won on the road, right? He was the guy, and he did the damage, and I think they won in L.A., right? They won the game, a pivotal game in that World Series when he was called upon to handle the business, and as a result of that, they were able to come back and win that series.
Doc, he was money. He was great down the stretch, all postseason long. He was a true ace, a bulldog, got them to the series, helped them capture a fall classic. I mean, what could have been better for JV than to do that, to get traded to a team, and then to win it all for the first time in his major league career when he could have won it with the Tigers? Now, we're disappointed as Tigers fans that he never won it here at Motown, but still a great career. I still remember crying. You ribbed me about it, but I cried when he threw his first no-hitter in 07 at Comerica against the Brewers. I was crying my eyes out, man. I'll admit it. I was only in at that point? Was going into high school, I think. Yeah, that would have been my freshman year of high school, so I was still a youngster. Come on, man.
This is bad.
You can't say it's that bad. Come on now. But JV was great, man. I had a jersey of JV's. I mean, that was, I think, my lone Tigers jersey, pro sports uniform that I had of a player. I mean, look at me, how big of a fan I was. So to see him there and to see him get choked up then, watching that montage of highlights. And by the way, you were saying you didn't believe the Tigers would have that there for him in that game. Well, they're going to have to, because they have to do it because of PR. There would be PR backlash eventually. So you know what? You don't even know if teams really want to do it anymore. Because now they have to do it because of what? Social media. They'll get ribbed on Twitter.
Yeah.
So they're going to prevent that from happening by doing something anyways. Even if they don't really want to, they're going to do it.
Gotcha. Great Tigers talk. I really enjoyed this one to reminisce a little bit about our coverage, the week that was for the Tigers. Interesting week ahead, like we said. They're going to continue the series versus Houston, play Cleveland, and then they're going to come back for the home stretch. And the blessing is you're going to cover a lot of the ending weekend. So you will have a chance to set the scene regarding what the end of the season is going to look like. Good job, Vito. You can hear this podcast every single Wednesday, even in the offseason. DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Message anytime.
And by the way, Dewell Lugo is in the history books as the first Tiger to get an RBI off of Justin Verlander at Comerica Park.
Dewell Lugo.
Of all guys. Will he have a future with the Tigers? Maybe not. Anyways, I think I have a future with the DSP network, and I'll sign off with that being said. Adios.